But the question here reads, would you explain the fair tax since it's being pushed by numerous Republican candidates for governor and Congressman John Linder?
Well, the idea behind the fair tax at both the federal and the state level is to take our tax on personal income, eliminate it, and replace it with a consumption tax, with a sales tax. Congressman Linder has been championing that proposal at the federal level for a very long time, and there are several candidates for governor who are supporting it as well. As I think my earlier answer indicated, I'm certainly in favor of moving away from an income tax base and over more to a sales tax and a consumptive tax base. So I would certainly join with Congressman Linder on that.
My wife worked real hard on putting this together, so I suspect this next question might have something to do with her. Do you favor public-private partnerships, yes or no? Will you explain what they are and why you favor them or reject them?
Well, I guess my answer to that question would be that it depends. There are public-private partnerships that work. There are public-private partnerships that become terrible boondoggles. I think what we have to do, just like we do with any, hopefully, any expenditure of public funds, we hold folks accountable, we demand transparency, and we make sure that those things don't go astray. I mean, I think certainly in this area, in Troup County and LaGrange, there have been a number of situations where the Callaway Foundation has partnered with local government, and it's been a big win for the residents and the taxpayers. I think the Promenade project is one example of that. So I think public-private partnerships can be a good thing, but I think, like anytime you're expending public funds, you have to be totally transparent and you have to demand accountability.
The local Troup County Commission and municipalities have just voted to ask the state legislature to have the TADs, which is a tax allocation districts, placed on the November ballot. If it gets placed on there, are you in favor of TADs? If so or not, please explain your answer.
Tax allocation districts are supposed to be vehicles to improve blighted areas. To the extent that they are used for that purpose, they have in some communities worked very well. There have been some communities where they have not worked. I think that to answer the specific question about the local governments asking for the authority to do it, once again, the philosophy of government I have is that if those that are closest to the people are requesting local legislation to authorize a referendum where the people can decide an issue, I'm certainly not going to stand in the way of that. So I would vote for, and I believe all the municipal governments and the county have approved this. I don't think the school board has yet, but if they do, if it's not passed this year, I would certainly sign on to local legislation to authorize the referendum.
Again, some people might not know, but the last election, there were 7 on the ballots in the state. The only one passed was the city of West Point. The other 6, either counties or cities, rejected the TAD concept. Now we go into the subject of education and the budget. This is one that a number of people sit in, and we sort of put it together. Education has been cut and cut again over the last several budget cycles. Here in Troup County, we've taken many steps to cut costs. However, teacher furloughs continue to be mandated due to state budget cuts. What will you do to improve the budget for education?
Well, I think, again, like going back to the transportation question, we don't have a problem here in terms of the amount of resources that are being allocated to the issue. The governor's current proposed budget proposes $9.7 billion for education. So there's plenty of money being spent on education. Now, you ask then, well, why are we having these shortfalls? Why are teachers being furloughed? Well, I would suggest one of the issues is the fact that $107 million is being spent on the State Department of Education. $107 million. Now, I've met with a lot of teachers, retired teachers, school administrators, and I've asked, what are these folks in Atlanta doing to help educate children? What function are they serving? And I've yet to receive a satisfactory answer to that question. I think that we've got to look at, going back to kind of our earlier discussion about making some tough decisions and eliminating positions that just aren't vital to the state's interest. I think we need to go through that $107 million and find out what we're getting for it. I think if we could return some of that money through the funding formula to the individual school districts, maybe we wouldn't have to be furloughing those teachers. So I think we've got to look at that. We've got to look at there's about $1.7 billion that's not being put into that formula. It's put into other programs, some of which I'm sure are meritorious programs, but we need to go through that with a fine-tooth comb and see if we can find some savings that would allow us to avoid teacher furloughs. Because I do believe that one of the last things we want to do in a budgetary process is to furlough teachers or furlough law enforcement. I think that's really maybe the last thing you want to do. And maybe we're there. From the review I've done of the budget, I think that there are still places we can obtain some savings, and I'd like to try that before we continue with the furloughs. I will add one other thing. I saw today in the Atlanta paper that there's a proposal making the rounds from the Assistant State Superintendent of Education for Finance to reduce the school year from 180 days to fewer days, and I certainly don't think that's the answer.
I suspect when we get through, so people have a few additional questions to come back on some of the responses that Josh has given. Next question is a rather lengthy question, but I'm sure you can condense it. It has primarily to do with charter schools. There's been much activity surrounding the creation of charter schools. Charter schools are publicly funded schools which in exchange for expanded accountability operate more freely with far fewer regulations. Georgia only has 113 charter schools, despite ranking near the bottom in public education. This is due to the legacy of school boards controlling the authorization of charter schools. What is your position regarding who should authorize charter schools? If a school is failing and the local school board is reluctant to give up the power and money, who decides on whether a charter school is appropriate or not? Think you can handle that?
I'll try to. Well, first of all, on charter schools, I certainly believe in not only charter schools, but as many options as we can provide in the educational system. The more choice that's available, the more competition that exists for students, I believe that improves the overall quality of education that's received. And we see it with magnet systems. We see it certainly here in Troup County, and we see it throughout District 29. As far as who controls that process, I believe, as I said earlier, that you take decisions that are made and you take it to that level of government that's closest to the people. Now, some people that know me well can say that I've certainly taken on the local government when I have thought they have made mistakes. And I think that if that's a problem in a community, if they're denying meritorious charter applications for some other reason, then I think the answer is replacing the members on the Board of Education. I do not think the answer is creating some other bureaucracy or some other agency to oversee the process. I mean, I'm very committed to the idea of local control, and I think that the answer there, again, is with the citizens getting active, and if the charter school is not being implemented like it should, to put folks in those positions of responsibility that'll follow the law that's on the books.